Hi, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Natasha, and this channel is a homeschool vlog as well as a family life vlog and just all the things that I'm passionate about, like gardening and cooking and anything else that I find interesting. Well, today's video is actually a collaboration hosted by Robin from Creative Two-Time Mom and a bunch of other homeschooling channels that are going to be talking all about our read aloud picks for this coming year. So if that is something that you're interested in finding out more about, follow along. And don't forget to check out all of the other videos that are going to be collaborating along with me in my description below. I don't know about you, but I am always interested in learning about new books to read. I love to read, and I really want to encourage my children to love reading as well. And so I always like to hear about new books and just new ideas to share with my family. So last year I went through my planner. I do reverse planning and I log all the books that we end up reading throughout the year. I didn't actually know how many books we finally ended up reading, but I went through and I found out that we read about 10 chapter books along with many other short stories and shorter, portions of books. So I have put together a list of 10 chapter books that I would like for us to accomplish this coming year. And of course, there will be additional other books. For Women's History Month, we read biographies about all these different women, and we do lots of different short stories that kind of relate to the subjects that we're learning, like history and science. I try to find a lot of other books to read. So these are not the only books we read, but these will be the chapter books that I have put on our list for this year. So last year, we took on the task of reading the Chronicles of Narnia. I love the Chronicles of Narnia. I read them when I was a kid, and I have been always so excited to share them with all of my kids. I read them with my two older teenagers, but I don't think we actually got through them all when they were kids. And so I was determined to read these books with my two younger kids in homeschool. Now, I have to say, they weren't always that eager to read them. Some of them are more interesting than others. And I think, the one that I think was a favorite this year of this series was The Horse and His Boy, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Right now, we are finishing up The Silver Chair, which I actually had forgotten completely what that was about. And I would say that is probably my favorite, but we didn't finish the series, and so I really don't like leaving things unfinished. And so our first book on our reading list, our pick for next year, will be The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis, which is the 7th book of the Chronicles of Narnia. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the Chronicles of Narnia, they're written by C.S. Lewis. He does write a lot of other types of books besides fiction. He's quite famous for. But the Chronicles of Narnia are a series of books that he relates real biblical themes to fiction. And so there is a character named Aslan who is a lion who he uses to depict God and Jesus, in a way, because Aslan creates this world of Narnia, and later on in the series, Aslan then dies, gives himself up as a sacrifice to save one of the other characters in the book. Now, in The Last Battle, it actually represents the end of Narnia. There's Aslan's judgment on this land called Narnia, and Narnia comes to an end, which might also then depict the book of Revelations in the Bible. But it is written in completely fiction. It's an adventure of children who travel from our world to this magical world of Narnia. But adults will get a lot from it too, because you will see these you'll understand these concepts of biblical themes and biblical truths in these books. This was actually on my list for last year. and we would start it, but then we'd end up starting something else and not get back to it. It actually was a book that Olivia had on her particular reading list that she was reading aloud to us. She is at that reading level. She was able to read it, but she would always then want to kind of start something else. She wasn't that interested in it, but I've put it back on the list because I really want to push through. One, I don't like leaving things unfinished, and two, so if you've looked at any of my other homeschooling videos, we follow the classical model of homeschooling. And reading classics are part of that methodology. I really want to introduce classic literature to my kids. The writing is just so rich, and there's a depth to the language and to the style of writing that it's really, I find, very important for them to learn different styles of writing, different themes and different topics. You know, you can always just pick books that you are interested in, but to learn to expand on your reading styles that to expand on the things that you learn to read and learn to love kind of introduces you to new passions and new interests. And so I've put this back on the list. The last time around that we started to read it, she actually was taking an interest in it, but then we were nearing the end of the homeschool year, and so we put it down. And so we're going to pick it up again, and we're going to read Charlotte's Web. Now, I'm sure you all know the story about Charlotte's Web, but if you have not heard of Charlotte's Web, there's just an underlying theme of true friendship and love, and even sacrificing your own life for someone that you care about. This little girl who raises this runt of the litter pig, she saves him from getting killed because he's a little runt and seems useless to the farmer. And then later on, the pig befriends a spider, and the spider name is Charlotte. The spider ends up saving the pig by writing in her web something very important about the pig, a message for the pig that ends up saving his life. It's an interesting read if you've never read it, and that is what will be on our list for the next year. The next classic on our list is Pollyanna by Eleanor Porter. Pollyanna is a recently orphaned girl who has to go live with her aunt, who is the sister of her mother who recently passed away. She is stern, she's a spinster, and she's not all that fun to be around. A bit of a grump, I think. But Pollyanna has learned an important thing from her father before he passed away, which is what he had called the glad game. And she is able to look at the positive things, the brighter side of life, no matter what she faces. I have never read the book, but I have seen the movie, the Disney movie, when I was a kid, and I loved that movie, so I'm excited to read the book. Now, I wanted to add some books in our list that I knew that Olivia was just going to love. Some of these things she'll have to grow on her because, she's never loved books about animals, and she never really liked old-fashioned stories either. She really likes more present time, but I really want her to learn to love other types of literature. But I wanted to add a few books on here that she would just love, from the get-go. She loves silly and she loves humorous books. And so this is an old classic, but it is silly and funny. And so we are going to be reading How to Eat Fried Worms by Thomas Rockwell. I believe I read this when I was a kid, but I don't remember a whole lot of it. This book is just about a group of kids, about this boy who was challenged to eat one fried worm a day, every day for 15 days. And so it's just about how he tries to finish this challenge. I believe he does accomplish it, but it's all the ways in which he tried to figure out how to eat this fried worm and all the other shenanigans that goes on with him and his friends. It's a great, funny read. It's a classic, and I'm looking forward to us reading it together. The next book I have actually heard a lot about from other homeschoolers. They're always saying that it's their favorite book to read as a read aloud to children, is The Trumpet Swan by E.B. White. The Trumpet Swan is about a trumpet swan who was born without a voice, and how he doesn't fit in with the other swans, but he is befriended by a boy, and their friendship really grows, and it's about love and friendship and overcoming disabilities and trials. So it's a great read. I've heard that I don't know that it's a great read, but I've heard that it's a great read, so I'm excited to read this book next year. So I always try to also add some historical fiction that matches what the time period that we are learning about. We are following Story of the World. Last year we did ancient history, and this year we are going to be doing the Middle Ages or medieval times. And so I tried to find some historical books that were based in the medieval times that we could read so that we could sink into that time period a bit more and see what it might be like to live in those times. So I found a few books as well that we will be reading as our read aloud for this coming year. The first one is called A Knight's Castle by Edward Eager. This is a story of a group of children. One of the boys, named Roger, his father becomes sick and has to be hospitalized. And somehow they discover that Roger's toy castle can transport them back into time, into medieval times. The group of children travel back in time in search for a cure, a way to help Roger's father recover, because it's a magical place. And every time they travel back, they find new things that help them along the way. And it's just an adventure, it's a fun story, and I'm really looking forward to reading this book. The next book that we're going to read, also based in medieval times, is called Castle Diary, The Journal of Tobias Burgess by Richard Platt. So this book is a silly, funny, humorous book, but actually helps you learn what it might have been like to live during medieval times. Tobias Burgess is a boy who is writing in his diary, and he's sharing all the things about living in those times. So I heard that it's a very funny, interesting read. It's also a classic, but it will be really interesting to go along with our Story of the World this year. So the next book, called To the Edge of the World by Michele Torrey. And it's about a boy who is orphaned and poor and gets a job as a cabin boy for Ferdinand Magellan. And he goes with him on his voyage in search of the Spice Islands. But this story is an adventure as well as a story about loyalty and love, and it's supposed to be a very exciting story. I found this as part of the supplemental reading in Story of the World, and it was recommended as doing as a read aloud. So we're going to add this on to our list to read this coming year. Now, another series that I was very excited to share with Olivia, and she had told me in the past that she's not interested in the olden days. Well, this one we decided to start this summer is the Mandy series. And the Mandy series is written by Lois Gladys Leopard. We started the book and she has loved it. She doesn't want to do anything else. She keeps asking me to read to her in the middle of the day, read at bedtime. Can you please read more chapters? And she just loves it. So we just finished the first book. And so we're going to continue on in this series. There are many, many books to the series, but the next 2 books, as part of my 10 books, will be the Mandy series. So I'll continue on wherever we left off. I just added the next 2 books in the series, but I think we'll actually be continuing that this summer. But the first book is called Mandy and the Secret Tunnel. And then there's Mandy and the Cherokee Legend, and then Mandy and the Ghost Bandits. So they're all adventures. She's always solving mysteries. But Mandy, it starts off quite sad. Mandy is father has passed away. She's an 11-year-old girl. She's very close to her father, and he passes away. And she's left with her mother, who really doesn't seem to care that much about her. She has another daughter who is her favorite, and she really is quite hard on Mandy and doesn't show her any love or compassion. She actually sends Mandy away to live with another family. She said, I can't afford to care for you anymore. I have too many mouths to feed, so you're gonna go live with another family and care for their baby. They need a caregiver for the baby. Well, this other family is very mean, doesn't like Mandy, and Mandy has this Cherokee uncle. It's a family friend who she calls Uncle Ned, who one day helps her escape. And Mandy finds out that she's actually part Cherokee herself. Her father's grandmother was Cherokee. And so the Cherokee kind of take Mandy under her wing, and they look out for her and help her. Well, they help her escape and find out that she has a very rich uncle who has no family. And Mandy goes to live with this uncle. And in the first book, she then finds out that the uncle has also passed away and has left everything to her. Well, I won't spoil anything for you, but there's lots of twists and turns and mysteries to solve. But Mandy is really a great read. It's exciting. Every chapter you're left on a cliffhanger, and so that's why my daughter never wants us to put it down and wants us to continue reading. But those are the next 3 books, and we'll just continue on from there. I'm going to add on 2 of those to our reading list. That makes 10 books, but we are going to continue reading through the series. Now, if we manage to get through these 10 books and we want to read more, I have a whole bunch of lists of books that I eventually want to get through, and I may update you and let you know what else we're reading. But that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to watch the other videos in this playlist to get more ideas of excellent books to read. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.